Hope you had a good lunch. Okay, so as you've been told, yeah, you enjoyed it. Great. Okay, yeah, great. Yeah, so I'm Samuel Mathu. I'm an agroecologist and soil health associate scientist here at WellVeg. I joined WellVeg last year. So today I'm gonna be talking to you about healthy soils and resilient farms through agricultural strategies, and give a few examples of the work that we do here. So first of all, I'll just start by giving some background information, a few case studies, an outlook, and then most importantly, to kind of like open up to have more of a discussion to hear the specific challenges, needs, interested or interests that you have on this topic. In the context of the research you're doing in your various institutes in your countries. So one of the main or several challenges exist to global food security, and these include, climate change, erratic weather, rainfall, flooding, droughts that are occurring every few years. I think you've mostly experienced this in the past year in your countries. Soil degradation, loss of biodiversity, focus on current agricultural practices that involve use of a lot of chemical inputs such as fertilizers and pesticides, versus maybe approaches which are more sustainable that include organic inputs and other sustainable practices. Also, food and health insecurity, uh, poverty, and migration from rural to urban areas are some of also the challenges that are facing modern day food security and agriculture. So, in part, what are some of the things that we can do to cater for some of these, or to solve some of these problems, so that we can have, healthier soils, healthier ecosystems, and thriving communities at large? So, some of the proposition that can be done is, looking at regenerative approaches, and some of these practices fall within the principles of agroecology. I don't know, are you familiar with these, or some of you familiar with these principles? Yeah. So some of these include practices that minimize soil disturbance, such as doing, reduced tillage to be able to protect the soil cover. Maybe I could get the other microphone. I think it's a bit easier to, yeah. So doing practices like mulching. Good. Yeah. I prefer to use this one. So yeah, keeping the soil covered by practices such as mulching, use of cover crops. An advantage, some of the cover crops you can use are even legumes. These would additionally also put nitrogen into the system. We know that nitrogen is one of the main limiting nutrients in soil. And also the benefits of things like mulching is also to improve, moisture retention, and regulate soil temperature. So these create ideal conditions for survival of microbes, also other life in the soil, and these benefits are also felt by the plant, and these are good for overall productivity. So practices such as maintaining living roots, continuously having roots such that they're able to increase, carbon input into the soil, feed microorganisms. So this is a good carbon source for them. And also practices that promote biodiversity. So, for instance, practices such as monocropping, these are not highly encouraged. So, it's really good if you have systems that you can incorporate practices that have crop diversity, such as intercropping. Sometimes, or is even very good to integrate legumes with cereals, like I said before, because of benefits of nitrogen fixation. Having livestock into the system is also a good thing. So one, you can benefit from the manure, use the waste from cattle, chicken. These are good sources of nutrients for the soil. And of course, the benefit of having these livestock also as an additional food source. Practices that also promote building soil organic matter, use of compost, crop residues. So these are able to improve the structure of the soil, bring back organic matter, which is also quite critical as it's a food source for microbes and other microorganisms in the soil. Also, a critical thing when it comes also to improving agricultural productivity and soil health at large is also how we manage water resources. So it's good to be able to improve how we are able to use water, store water, and this usually helps, especially in instances where we have drought. So to move on to some of the things that we do here at the agroecology team, we have a small team here at HQ, but also we work with the colleagues in different parts of Africa. We have some offices there, and some of the research areas that we do, we work on regenerative agriculture and soil health. We look at soil nutrient and water management for low emission production. We do some studies on greenhouse gases that I'll talk about a bit later. So approaches on circular agriculture that involve testing of organic fertilizer and also looking into new alternatives such as vermicompost. We've talked about importance of intercropping or crop diversification. So we have studies that we've worked on looking at diversification of cereal and vegetable systems using legumes as well. We also advocate or promote for good agronomic practices and also IPM. My colleague Stephen already mentioned some of that in detail more in his session in the morning. And also some studies we've done are also on developing simple and innovative urban gardening approaches that can be used in cities. So to my first example of what we're doing is looking at biochar. I don't know how many of you are familiar with biochar, or have you worked with biochar before? No? Yeah, you've worked with it, huh? Yes, yes. Yes. So biochar is a soil amendment, is a inactive carbon input that can be developed or produced through pyrolysis, which is a process of like really burning waste such as residues. For example, like in this case, we use rice husk. So it is burnt at very high degrees, even up to 700 degrees under low oxygen conditions to produce this inactive carbon substance that's used as a soil amendment, and it has been shown to improve soil properties, nutrient retention, moisture retention. So in the picture here, I'm giving an example from a study that we are doing here in one of our fields in Taiwan. So unfortunately, I'm not able to take you to visit the site because we've finished one season of this trial. So, but this example here, we used three different rates of biochar. We wanted to see how effective biochar would be on productivity of okra. You all familiar with okra? Yeah. So on okra productivity, so we measured things like yield and greenhouse gases. So here, this is a Lyco chamber machine that we is portable. We walk around with it in the field and we use it to measure greenhouse gases. I'm sure you're familiar with greenhouse gases, CO2, methane, and N2O. In that picture, we have our PhD student who was conducting this study. So he's incorporating biochar into the soil just before the experiment. So in this particular trial, it started, I think, in 2023, or was it? Yeah, 2023. And it was a one-time application of biochar. So now we are in the process of uh, continuously running this trial, and now we are, I think, on the third season. We have another PhD student who is continuing with this trial. So just to talk a bit about some results that we've seen. um, so here we have various treatments. We have the control. So we have mineral fertilizer with no biochar. So mineral fertilizer with 10 tons per hectare of biochar, 20 tons, 30 tons. And then we have organic with biochar at 0, 10, and 20. So what is important in this figure here is that you see there's definitely a trend, yield increase uh, in two cropping seasons. So the blue is representing the spring and the orange is representing the autumn. So in a nutshell, this clearly shows that when we used biochar, whether we amended it with mineral or organic fertilizer, we see that benefits of yield. And we also measured what we call global warming potential. So this is just in sum an index of measuring um, greenhouse gases. So ideally, the higher the value, the higher the effect of such a gas. And then what we probably want to see is a lower value. So a lower value is good. So again, if you look, you'll see that uh, again, whether it was regardless of first or second season, you see that when biochar was amended with mineral fertilizer or organic, you see it reduced in uh, greenhouse greenhouse gas effect or global warming potential. And based on these two results, you see that indeed already biochar has some promising features, and we'll keep on doing this study to see, whether across the seasons we still get consistent results. And also, one thing probably we haven't done or we are gonna continue doing is testing, by at what rate, maximum rate can we see these benefits of biochar. Because sometime in this study we considered a maximum of 30, but there's always the question, until what point can we keep on adding to see benefits? Is 30 enough or not? So this is something we're also looking into. Now, when I talk about the effects of biochar, these are not only on productivity, but we also want to see what's the effect of biochar on soil health. So you can do this by checking various soil physical, chemical, or biological properties. So here I just give a quick example of the influence of biochar on soil biology. So here we looked specifically at a vascular mycorrhiza fungi. So these are beneficial microbes, and they have been known to help plants in uptake of phosphorus, in some cases zinc, um, and also to some extent even moisture. So what we have here is, before I continue, are you all familiar with mycorrhiza, or have you heard what mycorrhiza is? Or this is the first time you hear about it? It's a beneficial soil fungus living in the soil. Yeah. So yes, somehow, yeah, yeah. It's a microbe. So it's maybe to explain a bit more. So here we assessed root colonization. So we took the roots from okra, we processed those roots, and this is a root that has been stained and observed under the microscope. So what you see here that is stained dark is the abascules or the spores from the mycorrhiza. So one way of checking if mycorrhiza is active in the soil is by doing this approach, or otherwise you can also use molecular techniques. So you can check from the root or also from spore count in the soil. So in our case, we assessed the root colonization from the roots. And again, just like we saw for the yield, you see similar trends when we use biochar, whether it was with mineral or organic, we see increase in AMF colonization, which is a good thing. So this kind of tends to move to the effect that biochar is beneficial even in promoting these soil microorganisms. So whenever we talk about soil health or agroecology or agricultural practices, one thing you want to do is you want to do practices that promote soil health. So one way of doing that is, you ensure that the beneficial microorganisms in the soil are, increasing. And on the smaller graph there, we used molecular tools. We took the soil from this trial, we extracted the DNA, and we wanted to find out, what species of mycorrhiza are here. So in this graph here, these are all the different genus of mycorrhiza that we are able to identify in the soil. And again, although the trend is not like in this graph, we see that still some of the important species of the mycorrhiza are actually promoted when biochar is used. So that's just one example, because also we use even these molecular tools to study even the bacteria and other groups of fungi in detail. But yeah, hope I get a chance to explain this to you also at another time. And to the next experiment is on tillage and mulch. So I'm sure that most of you are familiar with the use of um, mulch, especially it's common in vegetable production systems. So in this particular study, we looked at three levels of tillage, conventional tillage, reduced tillage, and no till. And we also looked at three types of mulch. So I'm sure maybe the most common type of mulch you've come across is the plastic mulch, right? But also there are other types such as like the biodegradable mulch. Although this one tends to be a bit more expensive, it could be a nice alternative to plastic mulch. Do you know maybe some of the challenges as to why you may want to use biodegradable mulch instead of the plastic? Yes? Mm, okay, anyone else wants to? Yes, yes. Yeah, that's also one reason. But also, you've heard, I don't know if you've heard of microplastics, contamination, having all these, that plastic is not really able to 100% decompose. Yeah, so we have this large problem of microplastics in soil and also in water. And some studies have shown that now, even if you look at the human composition, we have a lot of microplastics in our body because of many years of exposure to plastics and plastic waste. So quickly now, from some results that we had on yield for this particular trial, you'll see that here we have conventional tillage, reduced tillage, and non-tillage. So you see, plastic mulch tended to give the highest yield, followed by um, biodegradable mulch, and the lowest yield was witnessed mainly when no mulch was used. And when we went and looked into the, again, soil health, we used some molecular tools to characterize. In this case here, I'm just quickly showing an overview of what we saw. Looking at the bacterial diversity. So we see, uh, here we have a conventional mulch and biodegradable mulch. So we have the highest benefit being observed where we have no tillage and then reduced tillage followed by the conventional tillage. So what are the likely reasons that you would give for this? Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, because when you do no tillage or reduced tillage, at least you're able not to disturb the soil so much. So this gives a good environment for microbes to thrive. Then, when also we go to the mulching, you see you have again also high benefits when you use plastic. There was not so much difference between the no mulch and biodegradable mulch, because even though biodegradable mulch is being promoted now, depending on the product you're able to find, sometimes you find that um, the biodegradable mulch may not last as long during the growing season, because it's anyway designed to be biodegradable. So sometimes it ends up um, getting used up before the season is over. So this leads to exposure of the soil. So that's why in this case you're seeing that there's not much difference between the biodegradable mulch and no mulching. So again, on another experiment, here we were looking at different regenerative practices. So we looked at tillage. So we had conventional tillage, no tillage, and then fertilization, where we compared, mineral and compost or manure, and then we also had cover crops where we did fallow, and we had treatments with sun hemp. So, to give an example of what we observed from this experiment, I already have shown that previously you already know like the benefits of tillage. So here, this represents yeah, CT, conventional tillage, NT, no till, and then with the fertilizer, mineral, organic, and then cover crop is FA and shallow. So to have a quick overview, you will see like the best performing treatment here tended to be where you don't have tillage and where you use organic farming, you know. But also you see that yeah, here and here where you have sun hemp as a cover crop. Sun hemp is quite good also because yes, it's a legume and it also contributes to nitrogen fixation. So in this graph is just showing the diversity for certain, like here in this case is bacteria. And we can see how overall through these practices, they were able to support the soil microbiome. So when you have no tillage combined with compost, you have the highest results when it comes to, you know, looking at the index. So this goes to show that the microbial communities were highly supported here. And also organic manure increased diversity compared to mineral fertilizers. So again, when it comes to soil health and microbes, um, going organic is always good because when you put in these organic inputs, this is usually food for the microbes, you know, mainly carbon and nitrogen source. As we know that microbes are quite important also for, you know, soil health, nutrient cycling. And when you look at when you have reduced the disturbance and organic inputs, again, this tends to promote beneficial microbes. So again, the good results that we see here when we use such kind of regenerative practices. So another example is a study that we did on vegetable and legume intercropping. So in this study, we looked at three different nitrogen rates. So here we talk of, okay, the 150 and 0, it just means that the rates we used based on the recommendation. Um, and here the 100 is like full rate, 50% is half, and 0 is no fertilizer used. So also in this study we wanted to see, you know, the benefit of this diversified system compared to like a monocrop, and how this affects productivity and greenhouse gases. So for the particular study, we were looking at okra and mung bean, which is also commonly known as green gram. So we had okra as a monocrop, mung bean as a monocrop. We did raw intercropping, and we did mixed intercropping. Um, so here, this goes to show land equivalent ratio. So this is an index that we use in agronomy to show the profitability of a mixed cropping system. And if we do a comparison of the mixed and the raw intercropping, we see that there is a land equivalent ratio in all cases above 1, because we consider that when it's above 1, then is profitable to have this system. So we saw that also it increases with increasing nitrogen input when we consider the end demand for the crops in this study. Although mung bean can fix its own nitrogen, a crop like okra doesn't have that capability, so it has quite demand for N compared to mung bean. So when we compare looking at greenhouse gas emissions, when we look at N2O, which is among the most potent greenhouse gases, we see that the highest rate is when we use a high um, nitrogen applied compared to when we use half rate or no nitrogen. And in terms of the cropping system, you see that also the highest emissions are when you use okra monocropping, and this reduces as you consider like mixed cropping, row cropping, and for mung bean monocropping, the case would be because for that particular crop, being a legume is able to fix its own nitrogen. So there we don't need to apply um, nitrogen fertilizer for such a crop. So this again goes to give the benefits of having a legume. So also crop choice is quite important for cropping systems if you want to consider greenhouse gas emissions. And apart from those examples I've given, which are mainly on work that we've done here in headquarters, we have quite a number of projects that we have in regional centers. So one example of an ongoing project is this Greener Greens for agricultural transition. We have it in Kenya, Murang'a, and Nyandarua counties. So what we do in this project is we promote the use of different indigenous vegetables, although also we incorporate some of the common vegetables that are grown in Kenya. For example, you find that um, crops like cabbage, they do very well in a place like Nyandarua, which is quite cold. But when it comes to the other leafy vegetables, they were not doing so well in those regions. But in the more drier regions, you find that they grow quite well. And apart from probably providing the farmers with quality seeds, is also to give them training on agroecology and good agronomic practices. So you see here there are some sticky traps. So I'm sure my colleague had already mentioned some of these in the morning. So some of the things we promote are proper spacing, uh, intercropping, different, how can you integrate this with other crops such as legumes, how to design home gardens, and just optimal techniques to be able to get the best out of these different vegetables that we use in these different places. And through this, you come to learn that not every type of vegetable can be grown everywhere, even regardless of the management. So sometimes also it's good to consider the appropriate crop for the appropriate place. So also already I mentioned some earlier some of the good practices, such as mulching. So we also train farmers on this kind of practices, and we also give demos. So in these pictures you see here a demo on good agronomy for vegetables. There you see a farmer growing onions and also some lettuce. And here it's more of training on use of mulching and also composting. And apart from that, we also have one trial that we are doing in Calro. We are working with Calro in one of the dry places in Kenya. So in such dry places, it requires use of like drought tolerant crops. So here, what these pictures are showing is, up here, like you see, this is mung bean or green gram, and this is sorghum. So these crops are quite drought tolerant and are really suitable for this region. And apart from working on those two crops, we are also trying to figure out, or promote different practices also, such as tillage and fertilization, to look into what can be able to give the best output in these dryland regions. So just a quick overview of results from one of the seasons that we've done. I think the previous season. Um, Now we've done two seasons, and we are planning to do the third season soon. So we see, for instance, in the top graph, when we look at grain yield, here you look cropping system, you'll see that there is sol sorghum, sorghum rotation, which means that sorghum was planted after mung bean. So by quickly looking at it, we're able to see that there is an effect of crop uh, crop rotation. When you compare the sorghum rotation versus the sorghum soil, and one of the reasons may be because mung bean, fixes nitrogen, so the sorghum could be benefiting already from that. So that's why you see that there's an advantage of yield when it comes to that. And in this season, we also see that there's a high impact also of fertilizer. So the mean just means mineral fertilizer. MOR is a combination of mineral and organic, and nil is no fertilizer at all. Because in such a place, you find that the soils are quite degraded. So use of fertilizer, whatever you can come across, is quite important, whether you're using organic or mineral. And for the mineral and organic treatment, we use, just half rate of mineral and also half rate of organic, which we obtain from animal manure. And now for the second one, is also showing the effects of these practices, mainly tillage and fertilization on mung bean. And we see that for this instance, that you have the highest benefits of the yield being with conventional tillage, yet we would expect that minimum tillage would have a higher result, which is like opposite from what we see in sorghum. But sometimes, with practices such as tillage, you might be able to see maybe the benefits with more seasons. Yeah. So also earlier I also mentioned something about circular agriculture approaches. So one of the interventions that has become promising, or maybe you might have heard a lot about it recently, is the black soldier fly. And so now there is a use of its frass compost. So in this year, we see like the life cycle of this black soldier fly, and quite a number of initiatives are promoting, rearing of this black soldier fly to be able to produce compost fertilizer that can be used. And we've done some trials in Benin and Ghana, and we saw that when this BSF compost is used at 10 tons per hectare, is good for tomato and African eggplant, while 5 tons was just enough for okra. And also you find that the nutrient content of the crops is highly influenced by this, and also it has been shown to improve various soil properties when combined with other forms of compost, such as cow manure or even chicken manure, whenever these are available. So we also do again training not only in Kenya but also like in Ethiopia. And in this picture you see that we were training on especially like use of biological inputs for pest control. So in the picture there you see one farmer giving a demonstration there. You find that rather than probably using lots of chemical pesticides, you can also try and formulate local concoctions. And these in many places have already been used. For instance, you find different concoctions or combinations of neem. Are you familiar with the neem tree? Yeah, so the benefits are not only just to humans but also it has properties that can be used for pest control. So there are concoctions where you can mix neem, chili, and sometimes there is also this crop called titonia. So in different places that you go, this is some of the knowledge we also get from the farmers on the different practices also they use as biocontrol, because not everybody is able to afford expensive pesticides. So also some of the work that we also do is in Madagascar. So currently we are working with partners. We have a project where we are promoting, legumes, and here in the top pictures you see from several varieties that we have in our gene bank here at World Bank. We donated these seeds for this trial, and the idea is to screen and identify suitable legumes that could be used as potential cover crops. As I've mentioned earlier, also, the benefits of legumes with nitrogen fixation, and also, yeah, benefit of cover crops to ensure the soil is always covered to avoid erosion, maintain living roots is also a benefit. So apart from doing that screening, we also conduct, agronomic trials where we train also the farmers, and also working with the farmers on their own demo plots to promote or also to teach them different agroecological practices and avenues that they can use to maximize production of these legumes and also traditional vegetables. So again, this is one of the other partners we are working with, that they give training. So together with them, once these materials are developed, they are shared also in local languages. The farmers go to the various demonstration, and they get trained. So not only on the use, but at least with the living labs being established, they can also practice it, and be able to share the information also with other farmers. Also, there's been access given to some small business micro grants to enable farmers to be able to expand on these practices. And through this organization called CEFEL, they are also quite well connected to markets, and help with various linkages to the market for the farmers. So yeah, from what we've discussed so far, from the examples I've given, you see that different agroecological approaches or practices are quite important for maintaining, yield, soil health, and also they can contribute to mitigating, um, climate change. And where you have various diverse practices, like what I've shown, one important thing is to be able to think about context, because sometimes not all practices will work everywhere, you know. And also, when it comes to all these approaches, it's all about, you know, how are we gonna integrate, move forward, how do we become innovative, you know, apart from now, you know, the normal farming that you do. You know, it's critical also to integrate tools to monitor system productivity, soil health, so you can consider approaches such as remote sensing, you know, use of molecular tools, various modeling approaches, and knowledge sharing is quite important. So sharing knowledge with the farmers, doing capacity building for us, maybe as researchers, you know, looking for students to train them on these aspects, you know, also offering capacity building to extension providers to be able also to um, convey the same to farmers on the ground who they're able to contact easily. And also, once it's all said and done, is also at a higher level to consider how this can be integrated also into policy, especially like now. I'm sure in your different countries, you are also in one way or another also involved in policy development. So that's also a key role that can be done. So yeah, thank you, and yeah, let's have a discussion. Looking forward to questions, and yeah.
Hello. What is the difference between biosha and compost?
So compost, like for example, like biochar, right? Biochar can basically be made from let me give example of, you know, rice husk or coconut or even crop residues. So what happens is you take that material and you burn it at very very high temperatures, a process called pyrolysis, under low oxygen conditions, to produce the biochar, right? But then composting, this is just, you know, like how you say, almost decomposing or fermenting the organic waste. So that's the main for biochar, is burning at very high temperatures,
Okay,
pyrolysis.
sorry. Between the two,
Mm.
will give more result fast.
Sorry, results?
Between the two,
Yeah, short term, probably yes, compost. With biochar, sometimes the result may be even longer, because they say also biochar can even last in the soil for even about 100 years. So the longer also you have it in the soil, also the more you see the benefits.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. My question is on the slide, sir.
Which one?
The back. Keep going. Yeah, this is one.
This one.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
I can see there's an intercept between the reduced tillage, non-tillage, and conventional tillage.
Yes.
What does that value symbolizes? The intercept
Okay.
where we both.
Yes. So for example, like here shows the, like now I would call different bacteria, you know, different let's say species, you know. So what happens is there are those that are purely unique to reduced tillage, no tillage, and conventional tillage. So apart from those that are like really unique to those particular practices, there are those that are shared among practices. So you can find that there are certain bacteria groups you would probably find across all practices. So now this is a general overview. So in a more detailed study, what we try to do is we also use more analytical approaches to try and see, okay, which particular groups are being affected by those practices.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Another question behind
Mm-hmm.
on the slide again. Keep going. Yes, this the classification of this micro uh, organism on the floor.
Yes.
I can see the black spot symbolizes unclassified.
Yes.
So these are those ones that you can't account for, or
It's like now what we do is when we have the data from the DNA, the genomic information, we try to use that information and reference it to a well-known database. So sometimes when you check, there is not enough similarity between certain species that have been obtained from us to be able to give a good resolution to tell us what it is. So then it just remains like unclassified.
but it's as if it has the highest number of occurrence, the unclassified. Won't it alter the result?
Like now, you see, when you're looking at the genetic level, so we usually have, kingdom, kingdom, domain, like at the bacteria, like for example, fungi. We all these are fungi. Then when we come to lower classes, such as phyla, family, class, order, here I went really low because after genus is now a species. So sometimes at the genus and species level, we don't always get the strong resolution. But at least what I can be able to say for now, at least even within this group, I went and took the data that's specifically for this group of avascular mycorrhiza fungi. So I'm sure that it's mycorrhiza fungi. I know it's the beneficial one. It's just that I don't know exactly, or the resolution was not good enough to be able to classify it in those different groups that are stated.
Last question.
Okay.
That's the use of this one. Keep going.
This one.
Yes, this.
Yes.
This particular biochart, do you bond it directly on the field, or you bond it somewhere before you apply it on the field?
Yeah, so for here, this is as I mentioned, our experiment here in Taiwan. So there's a company that produces this rice husk biochar. But now this technology is becoming more and more popular. So even at the farmer level, there are certain projects that even I know of in Kenya. You find the people are able to replicate a kind of kiln, and then they're able to produce it by themselves. So for example, like if you go like in the Kenyan coast where we have a lot of coconuts, you can use the coconut husk as a waste. Maybe you might go to another region, they might be growing rice. So again, you have all the rice husk there. So you can also now use that as to produce biochar. So the thing is, uh, once you are able to at least have those small kilns, it's an option for now the farmers to be able to use what is available to them to produce the biochar.
Okay, sir. The question is, will you apply it directly on the field before bonding it, or you bond it somewhere and apply it on the field that you're cultivating?
No. Like now you see that picture there, you see the student is applying. So that one is the product itself, right? So we come, you will spread it here, and then we'll incorporate it into the soil. So it is best incorporated into the soil, not just left on the surface. So
Thank
here
you.
is just to kind of like demonstrate, what 10 tons look like, 20, 30, to be able to see.
Thank you
Yes.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very informative. I'm from Swaziland. We do vermicompost. I haven't had vermicompost for a long time. I was looking forward to hear about vermicompost. All of the presentation never mentioned vermicompost. So we have labs there that were constructed for the purposes of vermicompost production. Although we don't have biochar. It's my first time to hear biochar. Maybe because we don't have rice in our country, we don't have biochar. So yeah, and then my last question is, I'll ask both of them because I know you answer them both. Do we have instruments where we could measure the minerals that are produced from biochar, vermicompost, and our compost, general compost? And how do we classify those? Because there are different amounts of different materials. I know I can see here most of the things are done with rice instead, but we have a different product. I think most of the Africans have said they produce maize in their countries. I don't know if maize can also be used to produce this biochar or something else.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thanks for your question. So the first one on vermicompost, I don't have results to show right now because we had a trial in Ethiopia where we were also having vermicompost as one of the treatments that we were using to, to run this trial on integrated nutrient management. So we don't yet have the results from this trial. And also recently, when it comes to the study I've talked about in Madagascar, this is work that is ongoing, and we also are going to start some experiments soon where we will be using, local vermicompost. And so your second one was on biochar. So biochar can be produced from any waste material. So I gave the example, maybe like in the Kenyan coast, we can use the coconut. Here we use rice. Maize residue can also be used, but what I notice is sometime, like in some parts of work that I've done before, I know some people, they didn't want to leave maize residues they would feed to the animals. So this can also be used to produce biochar. So not only maize, but any kind of plant material that you can use. So here for us, rice is quite common. So that's why we go for the rice husk biochar. But also there are many studies that are emerging trying to look at the effects of different types of biochar. So sometimes you might use it depending on what is available to you. Yeah. And then when it comes to the aspect of minerals, so yes, we've done some quick analysis, to see what the biochar has. Of course, we analyze it for the properties, mainly is carbon, but also one benefits that we have seen, for example, like with the rice husk, is known that it contains silicates, and this also has been shown to be beneficial in soils that are lacking this. So biochar alone sometimes may not only be the solution, but if you're able also to combine it either with organic fertilizers, which would be a good thing, or in some cases soils might be very, very depleted, that just also some amount of fertilizer is still needed.
Okay, to shed more light on the biochar, at what degree do you burn this crop residue? And what degree of heat do you burn the crop residue? And are organisms also used to create biochar? And then you mentioned um, stuff like crops residue, plants waste, and stuff. So I think they should be chemically inactive. You mentioned it being inactive at that point until it's mixed in the soil. So at what stage do they get active? How do you make them to be active in the soil?
Okay, so the first one is, this process is called pyrolysis. So it's like really taking it to high temperature, up to even 700 degrees Celsius. And also key is to keep the oxygen level very low. Yeah, because in the end you don't want to produce like something else, like it's really the inactive, you're targeting the inactive form of carbon. So it's mainly sort of inert, but when you introduce it to the soil, what it does is, when you need to incorporate and mix with the soil, because based on its properties, is also able to help a bit with soil structure, porosity, and like when you look at the soil chemistry, how it's able to bind to different nutrients in the soil as well. So that's how some of the benefits come about. So not alone, but rather, when you incorporate it with the soil and whatever other amendments you want to use, depending on the condition of your soil.
Hello. Okay, thank you very much. Well, the first part of the question that I wanted to ask, you have just answered, but out of curiosity, I have noticed even your previous colleague that was here,
Yes.
most of your research, you do it in Western Central Africa. Is there any specific reasons for that? Why can't you do some of your research in Southern Africa part? I've just noticed, it's out of curiosity, it's not a political question. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Not really political, but yeah, that's where we have projects at the moment. We have a World Veg office in Eswatini. I have not yet worked there personally, and yeah, if I get a chance, I would definitely like to work there, so we can connect, and you can tell me what are the avenues that we can have to collaborate to do some projects there. So when it comes to Africa, yes, we have offices that have been there. The office in Southern Africa, I think, is relatively new. I guess it's not so old compared to the offices maybe like in West Africa or East Africa. So we are happy to work there. So just invite us, and yeah, we can do something.
Okay, Professor. My question is by how to use biochar. Possibility is to use, you can use only dry or you can use with mix of water.
What do you mean by mix of water? Because like you see,
Like we are saying
now when
that,
it's dry like this,
guys, and you mix with water before to use.
no, it's
or
just
you can,
no. You just you see like that picture how the student is incorporating. You just spread in the soil, and then you will incorporate it into the soil.
but in case on wind, what's the
No, it's heavy. This is not going to. It's
but
not
if,
so.
if you mix with water, is not it will be good or is not
I
good?
don't think there would be an effect, but I'm not sure.
Because
Yeah.
I'm thinking about if there is a possibility to use mix with water before to use.
But why would you want to mix with water? Maybe because also even in some time.
Because if it's dry, because we are working in school, perhaps for experimentation with school, and if it's to kids, parents or school can say it's not good for young people, but if it's mixed with water, it's not the same effect.
No, this is good because even I think it would even be safer to hold compared to like fertilizer. You see, fertilizer is like a chemical, so sometimes that one you may even want to handle more with care. But this is more of inactive carbon.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you talk about coconuts, and we can
Mhm.
use also other parts of coconuts or only the fruit.
I was giving example because the thing is, for the example I was giving is, how would you, one of the ways of making use of the waste material, instead of just throwing it, or, you can convert it into this inactive carbon, which has various different properties that you can use in the soil. Because if that husk, you just keep it there for a while, this it will take time before it decomposes, is what, but you can quickly convert it into this.
Yes, I don't mind, but my question is because
Mm.
my English is not so good.
Okay.
My question is only fruit of coconuts or only also the coconuts as the
Yes, you can also use that because even you can use the whole plant.
whole plant?
Yes, yes, yes. But I'm
Okay.
giving example of the coconut because that is what you'll find mainly as the waste.
Okay,
You can
okay.
also use bamboo. You can use,
Any plant you
yeah,
want.
any living material.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Professor, for sharing your experiences with us. In terms of sustainable agricultural approach, you have mentioned that training, farmers training is one of the aspects.
Yes.
I mean, in terms of approach.
Mhm.
My question is to know what challenge and opportunity exist for scaling up regenerative agriculture through farmer training, extension service, and policy support.
Okay. So to start with, you find that at many levels, depending on how strongly the government is willing to support, like you find in some cases even the extension services is quite broken, so there is not so much support given to the extension services. So sometimes we when we have chances available, we're able to incorporate such people also in projects that we are doing. So once we have them and we're able to train them, when also they interact with the farmers and they have learned something new from what we're doing the projects, they're able to take that back. If we have ideal conditions whereby the governments can give enough funding for the extension to be able also to organize this kind of trainings on their own, is good. But when it comes also to these practices, is always a continuous learning, because in as much as I say yes, we try to do these practices, we cannot do everything all at once. So for example, maybe one project may focus on certain practices, another project may focus on certain practices, and that's how we work about it. With policy, of course, now is a political will, because we can try to do the research, we can generate these results and disseminate these results, and once the people who are responsible, they say, oh, this is helping the people, now it is up to them to take it up and see how they're able to voice it out. Yeah. Okay, thanks.